in my martial arts training, there's a famous saying that we had, which was invest in loss, which, the whole idea was every time you do something, when you fail at it, when you lose, there's a lesson to be learned in it. And so you invest in it. You never want to be that person who's gone undefeated, because that means that you've really never learned anything. So,
Right, right.
you
Yeah.
know,
And the other thing is like I can tell a lot of times when I talk to other either trumpet professors or professionals that I know, I can tell by talking to them where they kind of had failures before, because they're really knowledgeable about some things that I'm not that knowledgeable about. And they're like they hit me to like ideas or approaches or like things you can help to relate to students, because they've been working in that direction so long. And I have my little niche of working in the direction that I know really well, and I use that stuff. But I try to pick up things from other people when I talk about, when I talk about trumpet. It's like, I don't know, I love talking to people about it. It's great. You learn something all the time, and failure is a great teacher.
yeah, oh yeah, it's if you go to a natural, whatever it is, and it's not so much that anyone is really a natural at trumpet playing, because there's nothing natural about trumpet playing.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but there are people that just kind of, they've got the tools, all the tools that they really need are kind of already there. And so,
And
you know,
sometimes all they can say is, "Oh, well, you just do this," and it's like what you just said before. Well, you just got to relax your throat.
yeah,
Well, you. Anytime you tell any muscle to relax, it's not going to relax. It's gonna tense up.
yeah,
The only thing you can do is be aware and let go.
yeah.
Which is such a different concept than just relax
Yeah.
or try to relax.
Yeah, well, it's because there's the physiological component, and then there's a psychological component. And if you, it's not saying that you have to have a degree in kinesiology to understand how to play trumpet, but understanding biomechanics certainly helps in the problem solving, aspect.
Oh yeah.
So like when you say relax, well, how do you relax a muscle? Well, like you were saying earlier, our tendency is to think about doing the opposite, which is then tensing
Another muscle
another
and
muscle.
creating isometric tension
Right.
between the two muscles pulling against each other.
So
Yeah.
the relaxation is just it's passive as opposed to active. I mean, I always tell people it's much easier to train someone to become stronger than it is to become more flexible, because
Right.
flexibility is about letting go. And
Right.
and that's the hardest thing for us, especially if you're a highly motivated person. You have a hard time letting go of things. You want to push. You can't push relaxing. Relaxing is the
Right.
opposite of that. So getting into the psychology and the understanding of how the brain works and why it works, and how like the nomenclature that we use, the way that we phrase things, it's the stuff that makes sense to us, but it doesn't necessarily make sense to someone else. and
Right.
and it's the things get lost in translation. One of the things that I really liked that you were saying in your dissertation was talking about like the tongue arch, and how the arching of the towards the rear portion of the mouth is going to create more tension. But of course, everybody is taught to, oh, if you want to play higher, then you want to go from ah to e, and changing the syllables. But if you don't understand how your mouth is, the oral cavity is formed, and it's different for everybody,
Right. Yeah.
you don't have, you're probably going to do it the wrong way. The odds are.
Yeah. Well, I remember I had Claude Gordon's book when I was in high school, and like I swear that book, I had more questions after reading that than because it was like the explanations in there, while like they may be exactly valid points, but if you're first learning that stuff and you're first hearing those words that are written in the book, it's like you can misinterpret so many different things, and I'm this stuff that I'm sure that he wasn't doing, but I'm like, does he mean do this or does he mean do this? I'm not really. So e, what happens? Oh, so I'm saying e. So I'm saying it with my tongue in between my teeth like this, ah, e, and it doesn't really do a whole lot besides change the size of the mouth cavity. But if you spread out the tongue on the edge of the teeth and you go ah, e, it changes the size of the opening that the air has to flow through, which creates a compression point other than at the lips or at the throat, you know, to create that compression when you push the air against it.
Yeah, there's so many methods. There's so many methodologies, and I think so much of it's driven by the way you explain things.
Yeah,
But
I believe there's validity in everything, but you have to have a knowledge base in order to be able to interpret what that information means for you. And it's a man. I feel like we're like totally bombarded with information these days. I mean,
oh
there's
yeah, it was.
so much.
Geez,
And
man, it's gotten worse. I mean, that's the great thing about the living here in the information age is that anything you need is at your fingertips. But the
on
problem
YouTube,
is,
everything's on YouTube.
the problem is it's all there, and not all of it's good.
Not of it, not all of it's valid. Exactly. There's so much misinformation, and the guys that are making money off their YouTube videos and all this crazy stuff, half of them are handing out misinformation and they're getting money off of it. There's a name that we won't mention, but good Lord, he has probably made more money than several people I know that are just absolutely fantastic artists and teachers, but he's probably made more money, and we're not going to mention names. I don't even go there. Nobody should ever click on any link that he has ever again.
Yeah,
I didn't say he, did I? Don't it. Don't.
I know who you're talking about, but yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's always looking at the end result, because that's where the proof is. But there's also there's a level of okay, there's some fundamental truths in how you have to approach things, and that's I don't know if I always get confused whether it's first level or first order thinking, but it's boiling things down to the most fundamental premise, and you get to that, and then everything else is based off of that premise. And so when you're trying to solve a problem, you go down to that one just fundamental, and then say, okay, now I can start thinking about more creative ways of working with the situation, as opposed to dealing with the circumstances. Because
well, boiling it down to its whatever you're working on, boiling it down to its most fundamental, like most fundamental, like, what is my problem? Why can't I play this? And a lot of times it has to do with isometric tension. I mean, when you're a trumpet player, it's like, as soon as I'm like trying to play something that I think something's difficult and I'm trying to play it, and I'm just like, I'm just getting mad about it. And then I step back and I'm like, well, my fundamental problem, oh, well, I'm getting tense. I'm like, stuff's happening here, I'm not playing like my usual self.
mm-hmm.
So it's like you have to think about getting yourself back to that fundamental, that one thought that you want to be, the one basic goal. You want to be relaxed in how you play.
Yeah. And